Consumer confidence. We were going to gauge the consumer confidence, investors' confidence in the ECOWAS sub-region. But we're going to the Ghana Stock Exchange to also gauge the confidence of investors on the market. And with me to do that is Esther Edu. Esther, you're welcome.
Hello, Edward. Well, I think investor confidence is quite low as the GSE Composite Index has gone down by 11.74 points. And also, in terms of financial stocks, it's also 0 points. Nothing much has changed there. The year-to-date change is now negative 2.15%. We are not even closer to the 0% mark. And in terms of financial stocks, it's negative 1.11%. For equities that exchanged hands today, they were a little over 2.6 million. They were valued getting to 2.9 million Ghana cedis. The market capitalization has also gone down. It's now 63,790,000,000. And for equities that registered price changes for today, we have MTN, the only equity that registered a price change, and it rather lost. And it lost a PESWA, 0.01 PESWA, and it was trading at 1.09 PESWAs, and it ended the day at 1.08 PESWAs. So it lost a PESWA. And for others that also were traded in, we have CalBank, 812 shares. We have ETI, 10,455. We have FarmMilk, just 2 shares, and GCB, 2,859. Goil, nothing. MTN Ghana, that's the biggest of the day, 2,637,208. And we have RBGH, Republic Bank Ghana, 254. Standard Chartered Bank, 220. And also Societe Generale Ghana, 150. And Total, 200. So the telecommunications sector was the one that we experienced price changes in, and it was losing rather. It didn't gain for today.
Thank you very much, Esther, for the update from the Ghana Stock Exchange. Go for a short break. When we come back, we'll be hooked on via Zoom to Kojoja in the UK and Paul Apia Konedu in Accra. Hello, welcome back. We're going to the UK to talk to Kojoja, a financial analyst, about the ramifications of coup d'etat in the sub-region. Kojoja, you are welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. Now, we've witnessed about 3 major coup d'etats in the ECOWAS bloc and 1 failed one in Guinea-Bissau. The major aspiration of ECOWAS is to promote trade, investment, economic development. How are these developments going to impact negatively on this aspiration in the sub-region?
If you see the purpose of ECOWAS is to bring all these countries together to trade and to improve economically. And even though some people, celebrate the departure of unpopular leaders, coup d'etats are usually not good news for the economy of these countries and the sub-region in general, because for economic growth to prosper within that sub-region, there needs to be peace, there needs to be harmony, there needs to be the freedom of movement of people from one country to the other. And these coup d'etats are a deterrent to these progress that the sub-region wishes to bring to the economies within the trading blocks. And so it's a worrying sign, because whenever there are coup d'etats, investors, depart from the countries. Any future investment is put on hold. The world decides, not to invest within the sub-region. So it's a worrying sign, and we hope that this comes to an end, because the world is looking at us and wondering what's happening. Because when you read about the things that happened in Africa in 2021, one of the headlines you normally see is the return of the coup d'etats back to Africa. So we hope that 2022, this Burkina Faso one will be the last one we see.
Paul, we've witnessed about 3 coup d'etats in the sub-region, and then today the ECOWAS heads of state were in Accra, and as usual they've condemned this coup d'etat. Paul, in your view, economically, how is this going to affect even job creation?
Yeah. As we all know, from 1st of January 2021, African governments started the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was expected to help facilitate job creation in the region by way of providing a wide market for SMEs, which constitutes more than 80% of Africa's economy. Now, with the recent happenings, what it means is that movements of goods and people across borders will be affected or hindered. For instance, if somebody wants to move from Ghana to Niger, he may probably want to pass through Burkina Faso. In the same way, somebody may want to pass through Mali to be able to access markets in other countries, same as Chad and Guinea. And if the security situation is that porous, what it means is that people who are so conscious about their security may be reluctant to move. And what it means is that markets will be limited. For instance, with the situation in Burkina Faso, somewhere around last week, there were some trucks that wanted to enter Burkina, but just after the coup d'etat was announced, I think the border was closed and the trucks were not able to move. If you have perishable commodities, what it means is that these goods may go rotten, and that affects the SME that was moving that particular product. So indeed, the recent happenings in terms of the coups would limit the opportunities for employment creation. And one other area which may be an indirect effect is also through the effect on foreign direct investments. Already, the COVID situation has already dried up flow of funds or investments from the advanced or industrial countries. And with the recent happenings, when you go to Europe and other countries, people see Africa as one. They are not able to separate Ghana from Burkina. So if something happens in Burkina, they think there are immediate effects in Ghana. That may also affect the inflow of foreign direct investments, which will also affect employment creation.
All right, let's come to Kojo Giant. Kojo, you are in the UK. Like you said, one of the headlines you saw was return of cool to Africa. Now, you are in the investment banking community. If you gauge sentiment there and what is happening, though it is not all the the countries in the sub-region, how should governments or investors from within here going to look for partners out there, what should they do to be able to garner their confidence and for them to come perhaps to Ghana, but at the same time it's going to affect all of us because we need to do trading amongst ourselves?
Well, as you know, as my colleague said, the West, they see Africa as one continent, and of course, we can talk about Ghana being a peaceful country, but then if your neighbors or your immediate neighbors are all being taken over by these coup d'etats, then you are also very, very in danger of it, because there could be a run over from these military groups, and of course these things are happening because of the inability of democracy to deliver public goods and security to the people. That is why people are now happy to see the military coming in. But on most occasions, these military leaders, do not, in a way, fulfill their promises, and so it is going to be a hard sell, to be honest, to say that there's military leaders or there's a coup d'etat in Burkina Faso, because as you know, I'm from Wenchi, and I know that there's so much trade that goes through from Wenchi all the way to Burkina Faso, and so there's definitely going to be an effect or a knock-on effect within the economy of Ghana, and so for an investor to come in, they would expect to come into a situation where the continent is at peace. There's freedom of movement, because when investors are coming, they are not just coming to Ghana, but they are looking at a possibility of also having business in neighboring countries. And so if as ECOWAS, if the sub-region is promoting freedom of movement, but then there is a coup d'etat in some of these regions, then it's going to be very difficult to convince investors to come in, to just come in and say, oh, Ghana is people, so I'm going to Ghana alone, because they know that if there's any knock-on effect, people from Burkina Faso could move into Ghana, and it's going to cause a little bit of pressure within the country. And so we just hope that this situation is brought under control, because if it affects one African country, it actually affects the whole sub-region. And so the hope is that we get peace in the sub-region, instead of hoping that only Ghana stays peaceful.
All right, Paul. We as a country, we are the hub of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, looking at the market size in West Africa, we're witnessing this trend. How will this affect the hopes and aspirations of the AFCTA?
Yeah, I think clearly, like I said early on, we can benefit fully from the AFCTA if there is peace and tranquility in Africa. We need political stability before we can even move goods and services across the borders of Africa. So let's even say investors will come despite the situation, but after producing the goods and services, Ghana, we are just about 31 million. And if we have access to over 400 million, a market of over 400 million, then you may want to explore these markets. But if the security situation in most African countries is that porous, then what it means is that even after producing, we are going to have issues in marketing. And here is the case when we want to export to Europe and other advanced economies, we are being prohibited or hindered by quality standards, which sometimes does not help us. So with our own markets, that provides us with the opportunity to be able to sell beyond our borders. But with the security situation now, if we are not able to curb it, I think it's really going to affect the implementation of AFTA in terms of trucks being parked for long times at border points when some of these situations happen. And some goods may go rotten, and for some goods, if they are not delivered within a certain period of time, their use may not be necessary anymore. And what it means is that the SMEs may not be able to sell simply. And if they are not able to sell, imagine a small company that has a truck load being locked up at the border because of a coup d'etat. That may be the end of the business. And most African businesses, small businesses, may suffer from the incidents of coup d'etats, which may hinder their growth and development. And by extension also affect employment generation and government revenues as well.
Yes. Paul, Kwajo, let's look at the issue of ECOWAS itself. If you look at the ECOWAS and the goals set by ECOWAS since 1975, economically, has it lived up to expectation?
I mean, we can say there's been some progress, but the fact is not being able to live up to expectation because of one of these issues is to do with this, continuous, overthrow of governments, because whenever there's a military government, the ECOWAS region kind of imposes some kind of sanctions they will not be able to deal with these kind of military leaders the way they want to deal with of these governments. And of course, when military government or leaders come in, all plans, are shelved. They come in with their own plans. And most of these plans are very, short-term plans, which, normally, they stay on longer, but then they don't keep up to the tenets of the ECOWAS. And so I think one of the issues that has brought about these ECOWAS sub-region, achieving its main goals is to do with, the continuous change of government, through military means, which stops, a long-term plan for the region. And so in a way, even though, there's been so much progress, it hasn't been up to the standards that we expect, because ECOWAS has been around for a very long time, and we are still, way behind other trading blocks.
All right. Now, Paul, we set a goal of convergence criteria to make sure that we merge the UEMOA monetary zone and that of the WAMI, West African Monetary Zone, that is the English-speaking countries. We've not been able to come nearer that particular aspirational goal, but in the midst of this, how is this going to slow the pace of translating these dreams into reality so that we have one common currency as a people and be able to trade across borders?
Yeah, I think for us to be able to adapt one currency, it is important that we have that convergence in terms of capping budget deficits to not more than 5%, which currently has not been possible, probably because of the COVID situation, and also the lack of prudent management of public resources by most African governments. We still have budget deficits from even beyond 10% in some countries. Ghana had 12% in 2021, and that was probably blame on COVID. But I think looking at the trend, we cannot just blame COVID. For most African countries, expenditure overruns has been the order of the day. So for us to be able to achieve that convergence so we can be able to have the effective implementation of the common monetary zone, I think it's important that the various governments in Africa check their expenditures to make sure that we spend within our means, to make sure that we're able to tame inflation levels. So we will not have exportation of inflation from one country to the other when we adopt the common monetary zone. It is also important that we have political stability. So, and that is why I think it's important that we are having this discussion as to how we can curb these incidents of military interventions. And to be able to address that situation, I think we need to look at the root cause of these military interventions. Governments of Africa must realize that they have a social contract with the people. If you read the directive principles of state policy, that is chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, Article 35+1 says, Ghana shall be a democratic state dedicated to the realization of freedom and justice, and must realize that sovereignty resides in the people. So power belongs to the people. Whenever politicians begin to take this power, whenever elected officials want to stay beyond their constitutionally mandated terms, then we are going to have issues. Section 2 says that the state shall protect and safeguard the independence, unity, and territorial integrity of Ghana, and shall seek the well-being of all her citizens. And that runs through most of the constitutions of almost all African countries. I mean, how many of these countries are seeking to promote the welfare of the average people, are seeking to open up access to services, basic services to our people? Until we are able to do that, and until presidents and constitutionally elected officials begin to respect their terms of office, until
we seem to be having a challenge with Paul's line. Let me go to Kojo Jain and get his view. Kojo, well, insecurity, I mean, in the Sahel region has been... Okay, I think Paul is back. Paul, can we hear you now?
To be able to hold on to power. I do not think...
Yeah, Paul, you can go ahead. Go ahead. Your line was breaking initially. All right, we go to. All right, let's speak the thought of Kojo Giant, and then we wrap up for the day. Kojo, can you hear me? Well, we seem to be having a challenge with the lines there. So that's how we wrap up the discussions on the ramifications of coup d'etats in the ECOWAS market, how it's going to affect trade and investment. My name is Edward Nyakun. God willing, we'll come your way again tomorrow. Shalom.